We are on. Good morning. Hello. Okay. We're going to do a lot of right brain stuff today. For example, your left brain is not going to solve the problem that I'm presenting to you. Some of you might know this one. Let me say it again. Your value as a human being, never mind as a clinician or anything else, is not in any way determined, reflected as to whether you get this right or not. Okay? I will never know. I don't care. It's just interesting in terms of different brain states. Your left brain alone will not be able to solve this. The question or the task, thank you, is to connect all 9 of those dots. You know this one. With, I think it's with 4 lines. Yes. So you can connect all 9, 3 columns, 3 rows of those dots with 4 continuous lines. So have at some point, you can kind of glance at and think about it, glance at, again, your value as a human being, your intelligence, nothing else is determined by this. But it will take the right brain. Your left, marvelous prefrontal cortex will not solve it in and of itself. Furthermore, speaking of brain states or whatevers, I want you to look at this. Again, no right wrongs. And figure out whether A or B, well not figure out, but to you, is A or B happier? Okay, A or B happier? Again, it's just a brain preference, hemisphere dominance preference. Okay, whether A or B seems happier. No right or wrong. Whether A or B seems happier. Okay, no right wrongs. Whether A or B seems happier. Whether A or B seems happier. Okay? Whether A or B seems happier. Okay. You guys work, I can see you're working on this. You can do your own little dots on here, try and figure it out. Do you want a clue on this? You ready for clue or not? No? Doesn't look like it. Yes? No? No, you want to keep going. Some of you do, some of you don't. Okay. We'll give you a couple more minutes on that. Oh, let me go back to over this. So, I just heard on the coming way over here, some teenager got in the wheel well of a Hawaiian Airlines, yeah, you know about this, jet. I guess he's alive, which is astounding. He flew to Maui. What part of the brain was he not using enough of? Yes. So while on the one hand, marvelous magic mind and lateral thinking and a whole bunch of things, on the other hand, thank God for the prefrontal cortex. Hello, it keeps you alive. My God. Somehow the guy's still alive, which really is astounding. I'm going to give you a couple more minutes on that, and then we got to go do this. Tell me you saw Jill Bolt Taylor's YouTube or TED Talk. Yes, please. If you don't, you've got to see that talk. She's a neuroscientist who had a stroke of insight. Talk about the right brain, the magic mind. It's astounding. I love her quote, right? She says, my left brain, I'm Jill Bolt Taylor. My right brain, I am the life force power of the universe. Deep inner peace of our right hemisphere. All right, so what are you thinking? You almost got this for those that are working on it? Here's the clue. You have to think outside the box. There's no way to solve it if you don't think outside the box. Okay. I'm going to take this off, but you remember 3 you can work on it. Oh, by the way, I can't remember who was supposed to send me a question for last time. Can't recall getting a question. Oh, send me a question for last time. Thank you. And who's going to do a question for this time? Wow, we're going to have 2 questions. Be kind. Why don't you do a question next time so you can remember. Right. And you're doing it for today. Thank you. C.J. Jung. Carl Gustav Jung. theory of the person, theory of pathology, theory of healing, what you like and what you sort of not so like about that. So, off we go. And this is blue, everything's going. What is it? Carl Jung, what's the theory of the person? We good, bad, who are we, what are we, what makes us tick, what do we do, why do we do what we do? Somebody talk to us. Balance. Jung in one word is balance. I'm going to put that in several columns. Certainly here, and actually healing really has to do with rebalancing. So I'll put it there. Balance of, say more about that. What are we balancing? What do we mean? Yes. In a nutshell, so to speak, or actually a rose seed, right? Human psyche, rose seed. We are destined, we are pre-programmed to do nothing than strive to bloom. Just like the little rose seed. The whole potential for the bloom is right there in this little dot thing. Put it in the ground. Needs good soil. Like a good family and whatnot. Sun, water, not too much, not too little. And it can do no other than to bloom. His term for this blooming is individuation. Ta-da! Kind of ahead of his time, very humanistic, right? Self-actualization, individuation. That's a very similar concept. Wait a minute, I gotta make sure I got your... Now, he believes it's neurobiologically determined. You can do no other than to strive for the bloom in the bioplasm of the being at birth. I had you take a piece of paper and draw the mask of Kana Manakiki and the mask of Karuna. Why in the world did I do that? Remember the little goslings? Right? Goslings pre-programmed, already pre-programmed basically at birth, as soon as their eyes can make any discernment of shapes and whatnot. For the shape of a goose, oh, whack, 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 or a hawk, ah, ah. So it goes from ah to ah. A guy named Joel Aronoff, brilliant professor at Michigan State, who I did not put on my committee. I loved him. He was fabulous. I didn't put him on my committee because I would still be at Michigan State. He was such a perfectionista. And this guy's a scholar. Well, he loved Jung. And he kind of wanted to be Jung's Rappaport, sort of, like Rappaport to Freud. Anyway, try to empiricize that stuff. So he did transcultural studies in which he would do things like have a Likert scale and a shape like this, and simply have it scored transculturally on dimensions like masculinity, femininity. Masculine, feminine, that shape, for you guys mostly. Mostly seen as masculine, more often. Whereas as you might well imagine, this shape was mostly seen as feminine. Round shapes, universally. Transculturally, that particularly, those shapes, they're seen as soft, the above is seen as hard or sharp. I mean, it's kind of obvious, sort of. Not everybody, doesn't make you wrong if you don't see it that way. Okay? But it's transcultural, and he would dare say transhistorical, though he didn't go back 1,000 years. Embedded in the bioplasm of the being, already a whole schema set of responses to a mere shape. Same with sounds. And as it happens, pretty universally, the sound ooh, what do you think? Is ooh masculine or feminine? It's more feminine, generally seen as feminine. Alex already knows where I'm going with this. And E, or Iki, is generally seen as masculine. So what I did years ago, I thought, oh, I'm going to give a little test to my class about that. Aronoff would like this. And I just made up those names, obviously, but what I made sure was it had the Iki sound in it. and the U as in una. I try to make things otherwise kind of similar. They both start with K and whatnot. So, over the years of doing this, where's your drawings? Thank you. See, prefrontal cortex, I need you. Oh, now, by the way, if you didn't do it this way, interesting. If you didn't do it this way, that maybe you've transcended. More often than not, here would be the classic. More often than not, what do you think? Masculine and feminine, masculine. So this would be, if I just saw this and nobody told me, I would say this is Kanamanikiki. And this is Karuna. Oh, it's Kanamanikiki. Oh, it's Karuna. If we had statistical norms in this and measured angles and all that other stuff, by the way, what is it? The deity of, does it say? Death. Whoa, intense. And of life. Think, feminine life. If we had, over the years, I kept all these, I bet we would see, this is curiosity. Oh yeah, okay, this is more angular. This is kind of Minikiki. This is Karuna. And that is more rounder, right? That's all I was looking for. If you did it different, it's okay. But what's fascinating to me is more often than not, by far, that's how it comes out, every time. Since 1984, before you were even born. Okay, so theoretically, perhaps maybe, there are these transpersonal, transhistorical, transcultural mega schemas already built into the bioplasm of the being. Individuation is being suddenly unimonic in some given moment, and I'm connected with all of this. Remember, obviously, you've got the conscious, you've got the, in those days he still called it unconscious, I call it nonverbal conscious. You've got the personal aspect to it. Every one of you had a mom. Every one of you had a dad. Every one of you has a personal schema, very complex schema, an associative network to mom and dad. Well, since every one of us throughout humankind has had a mom and a dad, that becomes an archetype, which is transpersonal. Quick, give me a definition of an archetype. An archetype is? It's okay. Sorry if I put you on the spot. You can start with what I just said. Trans. Sorry to put you on the spot. No. It's okay, amygdala. It's transpersonal.
Transpersonal. So what's an archetype? It's the different parts of ourselves.
Correct. Correct. But it's transpersonal. That's what's really important. Yes. It's transhistorical. It was 3,000 years ago. It'll be 3,000 years from now. So transpersonal means every person, not just the individual. And transcultural means it's in every culture. It really is. It's in every culture. Every culture has a symbol of a mother. Every culture, throughout history and always will. It's the template. I see it as transpersonal, transcultural, transhistorical, neurobio, endocrine. It hits all our different systems. Template of the human condition. So whether or not we're actually born with this in the little seed of our being, or whether or not it develops experientially, because we all have moms and dads and are born into the cultures and born into certain necessities of what it is to exist, and we form these, and we are symbol-making creatures by definition, the magic metaphoric mind. Maybe that's how all this comes about, but it comes about. So we have these symbols of the human condition, these templates. What's the difference between Jung and Freud on symbols? And I'm just throwing stuff at you. We can do this. Exactly. And they're not sneaky. Again, I'm sure Siggy was also right, but Siggy's whole model of a symbol. You dream about, you're in a rainstorm, you hang on to your umbrella, and the wind comes and takes your umbrella away. You wake up in the morning grabbing your crotch like Michael Jackson. Why? Because the umbrella really was a symbol, ergo sign, for your phallus, and you're having a castration anxiety dream. And your sensor, I don't know if whatever you've read of, this is early Freud, was there to protect your sleep. So it had to sneakily kind of mask the reality of the phallus by this symbol of the umbrella, because you couldn't tolerate the reality. What's a neurobiological reason why that's probably not true? It's okay if you don't remember this. Dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, which is your social brain, you're concerned with that kind of stuff brain, is asleep during sleep. So there's no way you could have that censored there. That's why you in fact have all kinds of weird images, and that's why again when you get drunk you dance on tables. That part is going offline. That's not. So for Jung it's exactly the opposite. It's simply symbolese. It's the clearest way your psyche could express what it needed to express, and what the conscious attitude, your regular conscious hello I'm Yanon me part, is not aware of but needs to be made aware of. Please remember this lovely phrase, symbols are bridges cast to unseen shores. By definition, you haven't seen the shore. It's not a sign for something else, it's a invitation, or sometimes a demand. You've got to get more sleep. How long have I been telling you? You got to get more sleep. No, I don't know if you're doing it. She just had a wonderful yawn. So, it's there to guide you. This nonverbal aspect, both the personal and the transpersonal aspect of this nonverbal part of you, is there to guide you. Pay attention. We talked about various archetypes. One of them, really important one, is the hero. Transpersonal, transcultural. Every culture always has and always will have stories that basically start with once upon a time. And you already know somebody is going to be selected as kind of the key figure, and they're going to have to go through hell in a handbag to get to something that's worthwhile and transformative. And we're mesmerized by that story, even though if we kind of know the ending. And we talked about all the brilliant people and companies who use these motifs. Actually, I'm going to add another one to that. There's an interesting, I just came across a book called, let me see if I can get the book. The book is called Compelling People, The Hidden Qualities That Make Us Influential. John Neffinger and Matthew Kohut, different Kohut. Two especially important characteristics, looking at all the different characteristics that are particularly compelling, that make us influential, that make us compelling. One is strength, the other is warmth. Now, remember my main gig about two main drives of human functioning or human everything? Drives, you want to call it that? What are those? Remember that? To feel. Right, and what's the other one? To feel, to be. Which would be strength, right? Strength is being the causative agent. And I dare say warmth is the ability to connect. And when you're around people that you feel are empathic, caring, ergo connecting, and they happen to be strong and competent, they're very compelling. That's called the hero archetype. Because you look at any hero, and they are extremely competent in something. They have a special something of that. And the ones that you really like, whether it be a movie star or whether it be a surf star, like Dane Reynolds is probably the most admired surfer on the planet. And Dane Reynolds is beyond extraordinarily competent at surfing. Kelly Slater says it's his favorite surfer. Kelly Slater's the most famous surfer. He's the most accomplished surfer. He's the richest surfer. He's incredible. But Dane Reynolds is even more admired by everybody. One is his extraordinary competence, and the other is his humility. He's just a normal guy. I saw him at Rincon. He just comes down with his board bag and some old kind of truck. No fancy car, nothing like that. The guy's worth millions, by the way. Quicksilver is given a contract, I don't know what it is, 5 million starts, whatever. He doesn't change his life one bit. Doesn't buy a house, just because you can identify with And he just comes on the beach and just drops his board bag there. His boards are there and he just goes surfing. Doesn't have some bodyguards. He's just a normal guy, Dane. And then you watch him surf. Oh my God! Because the heroes carry out the longings that we all have. To do a triple air reverse landed, to do a cutback where you just and the sheet of water is bigger than the wave itself. When you're interested, the world's best turn that's ever been made, right here, on my little video of Dane Reynolds in the heat at Haleiwa. And you look at that and you go, how did you stay? How is it physically possible what you did? He doesn't care about contests. Dane will either get a 2 or a 9 or 10 because he goes 105% every time. He knows no other. It's boring to him otherwise. That's very unstrategic in a contest. Because he can't, even Dane Reynolds can't make it 100% of the time. So when he doesn't make it, it's a 2. When he does, it's a 10. Those the judges don't understand because he got a 6 on this wave for this one turn. And even the commentators went, what? It's like, you idiots. That was the best turn ever made. But we love Dane Reynolds because he has exactly those qualities. That he's humble, he's normal. We can identify with him, and then he's extraordinary. And that's a very fascinating combination. The inner hero. So interesting who your heroes are. Because again, it's not fully lived or never will be lived aspects of yourself. Let's do some other archetypes while we're on it. We talked about, well, we can talk a lot about mother archetypes are very important. The good mother, caring, loving. There's always, don't forget, it's Hegelian. There's always a good light aspect and there's always a dark aspect. Individuation is integrating all of those. So the dark side of the mother, as Walt Disney knew so well, only made a stepmother, is the engulfing mother. The witchy mother. Then there's father, right? The caring, the kind, the courageous, vasopressin protective dad. And then there's the dark, awful, perverted, dad. We've got, of course we talked a lot about the shadow. Shadow, remember shadow? What's the shadow? Well, you weren't here. Well, you watched the tape.
Yeah, the evil part, the part that we don't acknowledge it, or we don't like to acknowledge it.
Exactly. Remember, pick the 3 ideals you have of yourself, or in general, 3 qualities you love most, right? Compassion, I said, creativity, whatever. And then reverse it. That's the shadow. Reverse it to the extreme. That's your own personal shadow. The fact that we all have a shadow aspect, a night aspect, makes it transpersonal. And you know who hits that transpersonal shadow? Serial killers. It's scary. Even if they're Minnesota, it's still scary. I used to sometimes do TV interviews. I'm not an expert. So there was Night Stalker, whatever the guy was in LA, it was a serial killer. So they had me talk about serial killing, and I actually talked about shifting, how he creates in us the state he has inside. He hates, he's fearful, all that stuff. They didn't put my name, just in case he was watching. It's interesting. But anyway, so there are ways that we embolize and feel that universal shadow. The shadow also is, in a less dark way, the unlived longings of the self. So I told you to think of 5 lives, remember that exercise. And we try to compromise. I play guitar, I surf, I do all that stuff. I don't do it as well as as full as I would, but at least I do it some, it enriches. And you gotta pay attention. That's the main thing about this model. You don't pay attention, you will suffer. Anima, animus. So I get a call. It's a CSPP student. When they still call this place basically CSPP. No such thing as a lion. So I hear you do Jungian stuff. A friend of mine took your class, and I'd like to have a Jungian-oriented year-long therapy because I got to do this requirement. Come on in. Well, somewhere soon along the way, we discovered that this young man was madly secretly in love with this woman. I mean, he would literally like kind of draw her on his notepad, initials and all that. This was before texting, before all of that. But he treasured, adored, and was absolutely immersed in her. Thank God she was his girlfriend. Otherwise, he could have been a stalker. He would have been doing a different kind of therapy. I'd be sending him to a group therapy for stalkers. But fortunately, she was his girlfriend. At one point, he comes in and says, you know, this is getting to be too much. It's like distracting. What would Jung say? I said, you are a bright man. Read up, what would Jung say? He comes in the next session and goes, she's my anima. She is the representation of the feminine aspects of myself. And I have projected it on to her. And that's why she has that aura, because she's my anima. I have to re-own my anima. How do I do that? I mean, I love that attitude. It's like, okay, what does Jung say? Oh, he comes back the next session. I love this. It's a really true story. I thought he brought the holy tome. It's this journal, but it's leather bound. Beautiful. I mean, you can smell the leather as he walks in. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. My journal, volume 1. Because here it is, Volcani. He got a journal. The way to get back in, the anima is like the guide to the inner world. It's like Beatrice in Dante's Inferno and all that. It's the guide to the inner world. So I have to re-guide myself. So I'm journaling. I'm writing down my dreams. I'm doing the dream tasks. And he did this, I mean, he really did this stuff. The drawings, we'll get to dream tasks. We're going to talk about a lot of pragmatic Jungianism today. And he did, after about 2 or 3 months, come in one day, another day, and said, you know, I love Mary. I dig Mary. Maybe I'll even marry Mary. But I'm not writing her initials on my hand. I'm not beyond myself in an altered state when she walks in the room. It's not like that. I love her, but it's not like that. So I don't know if it's just I don't have time anymore because I'm journaling so much, or maybe it really is a re-owning of that aspect, and I take that projection off of her. Anima. Animus, supposedly, though I think it's interestingly perhaps it's wrong, and or it's also changing, because it's a little chauvinistic to say that out to the world competent part of the female is somehow represented as a male figure. It may, but if it is, I bet it's changing, because there's a lot of kick-ass heroines out there. And you see Vikings, the History Channel Vikings. Oh, I love that show. It's on tonight. Can't wait. Can't wait. There's only 2 more episodes, and I have to wait another year. Come on, dudes. I just love the beginning song. Give me more, give me more. You can't even tell. You gotta see this thing. It's on tonight, by the way. History Channel 56, if you know. Well, I don't know her name, because it's all Viking names. You know, it's History Channel, so there's accuracy in this. Just the moods. Oh, God. It's a little gory, but... Yeah, that was really intense. That ego, that was like... The point of all this is, there is his former wife, oh my God, is she kick-ass. Oh my God! I mean, you do not mess with that woman. I mean, Xena was kick-ass enough, but she was kind of a caricature. This woman is fabulous. I told you I loved Ancient Dunham from Fringe. I mean, there's some incredible. Never mind, what's the Hunger Games. Yeah, I mean, there you go. Now there's a new one coming out, Divergent. And that's another female hero. There's a lot of female heroes. So perhaps, maybe, never mind epigenesis, experience changing genetics or triggering genomes that won't otherwise trigger. Or aren't. Whatever it is, I think you can have your own empowered sense without having to project that onto the male. So maybe that'll change this whole animus thing. Maybe just a one thing. But anyway, that is the concept on that. Let's talk about, what's another one? Oh, who was it that sent me that wonderful article on the wounded child? Yeah, that's right. Where'd you find that?
Just online.
It's beautiful. Oh, please, come on. There's no quizzes, no tests. I can't force you to read anything, but please look at that. It's a very Jungian-esque way of looking at everything, because everything becomes kind of archetypal. And the child is, I'll tell you this, you dream of a child, you just had an important dream. Remember, again, really important, the difference between Freud and Jung about symbols and how they're approached. The Freudian, again, not right, wrong. Freudians tend to, what am I going to say? Interpret what it means. A symbol becomes a sign. The Jungian approach to symbols is to accept, allow, expand. By relating to the symbol. Remember my wave on my ring. I will never fully know what this symbol, it's an unseen shore. That's why it has mana, power, energy. Signs don't have a lot of power. Yeah, you see a stop sign, you stop. They tell you they're informative. Symbols are compelling. It was interesting when you guys did the Samuel. There were times when it didn't feel right. Alex, I think you said at one point, it was like, it doesn't feel balanced. I think you even said the word balanced or something, and then you had to do something. It's that feeling like, that's what symbols are about. So that's a really important difference. Remember that. Okay, so the child is an enormously important symbol. So the main thing I would say to you, you have a dream about a child, you be sure you're taking good care of that child. And again, we're going to talk about dream tasks and how to do that. That's really important. And there's the wounded child, and there's the happy, exhilarated child, and the nature. There's all different forms of that. Okay? Persona, the social presentation of self, is a really important archetype. It has a light side and a dark side, of course. The light side is, it gives us a pre-established, predictable, remember, brain set up to survive. First way to do that is to predict what's going to happen next. It gives us a predictable way of engaging with each other. I am so sorry I didn't turn off my phone. Shame on me, the last vesicle of my doggies. I was thinking my doggies when they walk like that. I lost my train of thought. I'm barking. Predictive, right, thank you, I'm right there, right. So the persona helps us predict. You know exactly how to greet the store clerk. Hi, I did good, blah, blah, blah. And it's a predictive relation. Again, it's a bireciprocal, predictive. That's the problem I have, in a way. You have a very entrenched schema of how to be a student relating to a professor or teacher. I have a certain persona, you have the student persona, I have the professor persona. Well, it doesn't fit for me in certain ways as I try to teach this class as a person-to-person experiential class. So I have to keep coming up against your archetypal version of a personaed relationship regarding a teacher and a student. The good news is it's very predictable. That's why it's hard for you to say, Yanon. Let's practice. Yanon. Thank you. And I'm so happy when you do, but I was like, and it's okay, it doesn't make you bad if you don't. And I understand there's cultural issues. Dr. Dude, whoever did that to me the other day, that was, oh, you did, I think. Yeah, thank you. That's the compromise, Dr. V compromise. But anyway, personas have gotten much more complicated now because of Facebook. What is Facebook but our own kind of personal persona to the world? And it's no longer just here, it's to the world. The entire world can see our persona, Instagram, all that stuff, and it impacts the whole thing of the hero. There's a great quote from Jackie Kennedy, of all people. Let's see if I can find this really quickly. Come on, Jackie Kennedy. She knew the immense power of surfaces. And what she meant by that was that there's a lot of power in keeping persona and distance. In those days, as you well know, dear Jack Kennedy was doing a lot of things, or certain things in particular, that we didn't know about because we were shielded from that. And perhaps in her point of view, maybe it's a rationalization, there's a functionality to that. He is the President of the United States. Talk about a persona, talk about an archetype. the hero, the wise man, and all. And there's an integrity about the persona, separate from the person, that needs to be kept intact. And on the one hand, Dane Reynolds, I follow him, and Kelly, and follow these guys on Twitter and Instagram. So they're very personal. So there's this sorry, you're right here. There's this immediate kind of identification and all of that. But the surfaces, the persona part is gone. Paul, I know you want to say something. Can you hold that thought? Because otherwise I want to keep it on the train here. Rory Devine, my dear wife, is a newscaster and news reporter, right? I think I've told you that. She's been in this town longer than any other news reporter on that street. 30 some odd years. She really is of the ilk of Edward Murrow, of Cronkite, where you are simply a vehicle for the news. What matters is the news. What matters is that T word, truth. I mean, she really is a journalist. That really matters to her. It's not at all about her. It's about the news. She's just a vehicle. She's barely even the picture frame. Look at the picture, not the frame that's holding. That's not what the biz is. Rory Devine loves her work. What she doesn't like anymore, and makes it really difficult for her, is the context that she lives in. She has to have a Twitter account, and she has to put out so many Twitters. She has to have, and this drives her even more crazy, a Facebook. Rory Devine is such a private human being. To be out in the world with a Facebook, it's so weird to her when people come to her and go, oh, you're Rory Devine, I love it. Can we take a picture? Can we do a selfie? And it's just like, it makes no sense to her. And I just keep saying, you're in people's lives. You're in their lives every day. You become a member of their family. It's a big deal to be on TV, less now than it was, because, again, YouTube. What is the point of that? It's the persona that becomes and they use this word very specifically, and they tell her, you need to become a brand. You're a brand. You're a Rory Devine brand. How do we build your brand? Oh my God. Rory Devine, a brand? Oh my God. That is so hard for her. She's anything but a brand. Many, many, many years ago, there was a brilliant professor named Herbert Marcuse. Not here to talk politics with you, but he was a very left wing. His book, One Dimensional Man, was the Bible of the movement way back. And he was here at UCSD in 68, 69. He would be rolling in his grave. The thought of we brand ourselves. And that's what it's about, being a brand. That's persona gone crazy. So persona's a big part. If you still remember, please, what's your comment or thought or question?
Have you seen anything like a Facebook for the shadow, where people, things that are not accepted, or I guess there'd be two versions of that. One would be where it's consciously said, this is a dumping ground for the shadow. Express your shadow. When I was at St. George Holmes, one of the classic things for Halloween we would do is dress as your shadow. I mean, but that's very conscious. That's actually Jung's point is when you first started Jungian therapy. Footnote on that, by the way, he was not interested in kids. He was really interested, or teens, or even young adults. He was interested in folks once they got married, settled in jobs. Now the journey really begins. Now you have to look at that's the first thing you do is look at your shadow, which in many ways is what Ziggy was saying. Seedy cauldron of impulses that are repressed and all that. You got to deal with that. And Jung would say, yeah, that's great. That's the first step. Then we get into really interesting journey stuff. So I'm sure there's a lot of shadow out there. Some might call that heavy metal rock, or death rock, or whatever you call it. But it's different as to whether it's conscious shadow, work with shadow, transformative shadow.
There's a website that I don't remember right now the name of, but it was like maybe 5 years ago where you could, it was something along the lines of, you don't know this, like this is my secret or something.
Oh,
Yeah, there you go. And so then people would put like,
I'm sorry, what's it called?
so they'd put
Okay.
like, I'm having an affair, or
Oh, okay.
I did this, I did
Okay,
that.
it's almost like it's a visual confessional.
Yeah, they send it on postcards, so it's homemade.
Oh.
That they mail it anonymously.
Oh.
Yeah, it started as a research project that somebody made thousands of 3x5 postcards and just left them all over the U.S. and people decorated them. And so there's secrets like, I've been cheating on my husband for 5 years, but it's decorated with pastel colors and flowers and all these beautiful pictures. So it's sort of like,
That's very interesting.
It's really interesting what they wrote
Right.
and then how they decorated.
And then again, the need to state it, because then you feel connected to whomever the imagined reader is. And that is amazing. You don't even have to know the person, just that. And I think that, in fact, is one of the positive senses of Catholicism. All that is you get to confess. You get to say it, man. Talk about think, feel, say anything. You say anything. And they say you're still forgiven, and here's what you got to do, some Hail Marys, and you go, you're back to so. But that's interesting. That was the website. Anyway, persona is a big thing, and it's more now because of the world we live in and all of social media. And you deal with persona a lot and brand and whatnot. Okay, so let me think. What other important? Oh, the wise old man and the wise old woman, the inner wise one, is an enormously important archetype. We'll do some exercises with that. Of course, this whole thing is the journey, this process of individuation. Remember, it's a spiral, not a circle. You never complete it. Individuation is a momentary state, and then boop, it goes back to disbalance, and you have to rebalance. This process is a journey, and that in itself is an archetype. Most heroic stories are journeys. You start out in one place, you have to go through, you're journeying, you're on an adventure, and then you eventually come to a new place. Long ago. And you look at those, I love those old medieval paintings with the guy on the road. You look from afar, and there's this road. He's on a journey. I remember once seeing an ad, I don't even know, thank God, for what it's for, but it was an amazing picture of a road, and you couldn't see around the corner, and it just pulled you right in. And you wanted to like, oh, what's around the corner? What's around the corner? Just grabs the journey. And what are you journeying towards in all of this? The self, capital S, self, self. And a lot of important symbols for the self. One of them is mandalas. Jung was fascinated by mandalas and these balancings of totalities in this picture form. Another is, remember what I had you do? I'm finally home. And Carl and home, I'm home. Home is an amazing archetype for in part self, a safe and sheltered space. It's home. And the relationship between small self and big self. See, to me, that's what surfing's about. Because ocean is an amazing symbol for self. And never mind whether the surfboard's phallus or not, whether that's my mom or not. Another way to look at it is surfboard is ego. And the relationship between surfer and ocean is a perfect analogy to small s to big S. Because if you don't assert at all, whoosh, you over-assert, whoosh, you gotta tune into that power. You gotta use that power. Can you be that power? But you're never really that power. You have tremendous respect for that power. And it's fabulous. See, I think that's much more I don't think I'm screwing my mom as much as I'm small s to big S. Connecting that power. So, the self is an enormously important. And I always thought if mnemonic state is such an important state, what would be the archetype? And of course, it's the self. Okay, I think we've covered a lot there. So what's the theory of pathology in all of this? Yeah. You're not balanced. You're not paying attention. Disbalanced aspects of self. Disbalanced aspects of the self.
Symptoms are the last gasp cry of self saying, pay attention. Oh, let me back up one. I'm so sorry. I need to make another point very important. Remember we talked about Disney obviously really tunes into archetypes. Lucas obviously does. The other thing that really tunes into archetypes, and I mentioned this to you before, but let me underscore it again. Video games. Video games. They're digital sand worlds. It's what they really are for adolescents and above, or kids. You get to be that hero. First-person shooter game. You're the hero. You get to look through the hero's eyes. You get to do things you never could do out in the world. But you feel like you're actually doing it. Mirror neurons and all that. Oh my God. Testosterone levels, oxytocin, all kinds of things rise in you as if it's real. Now you get to be the hero riding the dragon. Not in mythology, but what feels like realology. Oh, fuck, man. You could not make a better crack cocaine of the soul to hook you in. You get to connect, as I've said, with all your compadres out there. You get to be this hero, or you can be the shadow. Hoo-ah! Grand Theft Auto. I mean, it's amazing. You get to live out archetypes in that medium. And you can control it. You can turn it off anytime. You're totally in charge. Because what happens, it starts to control you. It gets harder and harder to turn it off. I will say, I did see a piece of research just recently. Prefrontal cortex, certain areas, thicker in kids in adolescents that play video games. Now, didn't see how much video games, where's the right amount. It's not all bad. But man, do they have the archetypes down. They grab you with that. Plus that primal sensory motor, visual colors and patterns. It's amazing. All right. So disbalance. You're doing too many video games. Hopefully your psyche says, hey, dude, you're drowning in that stuff. Come on up. And they'll talk to you in image. They'll talk to you in dream states. So what obviously is healing? Yeah. Healing is rebalancing. How do you do that in this worldview? I'm looking at you. I know. You're like, and you're looking back, so you're not like trying to avoid. You're like, you're thinking, like, okay, I'll take the challenge. My inner hero can do this. Let's see. I'm not sure. Rebalance. What do you rebalance? How do you do that? What are you thinking? Just think out loud. Free associate. It's okay if you're not thinking. If you're like, I don't know. Wait. Okay. It's okay. By the way, the rest of the class, as soon as we get past this, is about that, actually.
I think what you said before about accepting expanded.
Yeah.
Or aspect of itself, like the archetypes.
Yeah, you have to relate to them. So what I call pragmatic Jungianism, which I really learned at St. George Holmes. We lived a Jungian life. It was really a different, especially, God knows, in Berkeley, California, circa 1974. It's the perfect place and time to living a Jungian life. I looked like I did in that video, so that's perfect. I look like the persona. Talk about the persona for Berkeley, California, circa 1974. Here's St. George Holmes Residential Treatment Center, right off of campus. Dorothea was the head. She owned the place. We had 5 homes. And it was basically a commune of about 40 counselors and about 80 kids. And it was an amazing, amazing thing. But we really lived the Jungian life. So we would start the day with ritual. So you gather in a circle. The team for the day would gather in a circle on the ground, and you ding a bell, ding. You sit very quietly, and you light a candle, and you say a word or something for the day that you wish for yourself, whatever, peace, whatever. And then you pass the squeeze, and then you start your day. You're like monks. We would do that at lunch. We did that with the kids. It was really important. Ritual is a whole other aspect of Jungianism. We would do that at night with them. And they would say a word, and they would pass the squeeze, and whoever got to ring the bell. I mean, it's a really different mood. Again, if we lowered these lights and we lit candles, and it's a totally different mood. So that's a way of relating to day and self.
as you know, I have this whole thing about the inner White House. Well, really, it's kind of a modernization of the whole Jungian idea of aspects of self. Who's in charge of you in any given moment? How do you get to have the choice to choose who's in charge? That's what heals. Role of therapist? What's the role of therapist in this?
Are you like tapping into the unconscious or kind of leveling things out a little
It's,
bit?
the role of the therapist is perfect timing. The role of therapist is to co-guide. It's to be a co-guide in this process. They'll take on the archetype of the healer. Healer's an archetype, a magician, wise one that can, and co-guide you. It's a really interesting model because if you look, one of the things I said way back is there are kind of two huge main schools, if you will, of treatment: relationally based, skill acquisition based. Well, this is a more relationally based model, but it's really about the relationship between small s and big self, big S. They're just a mirror and a guide, not really a mirror, a guide to help you relate to you. So it's very relationally based, but it's a relationship between you and you. And I facilitate you relating to you more and more. Now, that's certainly in one sense the case for humanism and the case for psychodynamicism. But psychodynamics is about the transference. Again, I see it as a lightning rod. Bring it on to me and I'll interpret so that you can be better related to self. In humanism, mirror with heart, mirror with heart, mirror with heart. Well, these folks are active. We're going to co-engage. I gave that guy assignments. I mean, he was very good just doing it on his own. But I gave him assignments. You give tasks. So it is therapist-directed in many ways. Client-centered, is client-attuned. Also knowledge base of archetypes and all of this. But they're tasks. You're to do a dream task. You're to do an image task, whatever. But it's a co-guiding because you have your own guide. And it's small s self to big S self relation. The other thing I mentioned was rituals and how important rituals are in this model. And when I was in St. George's Horns, we did a lot of rituals, which are very binding, connecting. Okay. So what do you think? What do you like? What don't you like? What seems ridiculous? We haven't even gone to the wooga wooga part. That we'll do at the end of today. We have so much to cover.
I really like that it goes a little bit beyond just interpretation and then,
Yeah.
but actually saying like, okay, how do you expand on that? And that is just a process.
Yes. Very much so. And again, we're going to talk about specifics of that. And so that part of you that likes that will like that even more. It's a way of being in the world. It really is a way of being in the world, of looking at the world and being in the world. I mean, in one sense everything is, but it's a very unique, interesting way of being in the world. Yes?
I like how a symbol can mean something completely different for two different people, and there's a lot of subjectivity in it.
Yes, that's exactly the point. That's why it would be insulting. It'd be ridiculous for me to interpret your symbol. Who the hell do I think I am? And have some formula that is... No, that's why it's so cool to be a co-guide. You'll discover, I can't tell you what your symbol is. There are these archetypes, there are these thematic aspects. And again, don't forget, archetype is the wine, not the bottle. Different cultures will put it in a different shape, but the wine's always the same. So yes, that's a neat way to be as a therapist. I have to interpret it for you. I'll guide you for you to discover. Again, I didn't tell you what any of your sand tray things meant. God, how presumptuous, how ridiculous that would be of me. What I did say is, give me 3 adjectives to describe this. It's totally subjective. You're going to tell me things about you. That I believe. It is a symbolic mode of reality. We are symbol-making creatures. We can't help ourselves. So that's cool. And I think that's a really cool attitude. I like that attitude. It's in you, and I'm going to help you. Here, give me 3 adjectives. Oh, that's interesting adjectives. Now go to the next one. Now see an image. See this talking to you. What do you hear it say? You know, so I'm co-directing, co-guiding, looking for certain things. Hero, wisdom, I'll set it up so you're a wise one, so you can more easily access your inner wise one. But I can't tell you what your wise one's going to say. Wasn't it yours? What you said a wonderful. Wasn't it you guide?
About keeping my focus on the surroundings versus in the.
Yeah, kind of being mindful. Yeah. I have no way to say to you, you've got to be less in your head, more mindful. I don't know you that well. It'd be very intrusive even if I thought that was the case. You say it for yourself, and then you have it in here. And you have access. There's a depth to it. It's really, for those who like that kind of, there's history, there's fairy tales and mythologies. And, there's something that's really nice. If people like that, that's very cool. You could also put that on the other columns, like, I don't need to go into all those Greek myths, Viking or Nordic myths, and I could be here now. So I could see it either way, but I happen to think that's really cool. What things don't resonate with you on this? It's okay that it doesn't resonate in certain ways.
Has a whole lexicon that's a little bit esoteric sometimes.
Okay, that's good, yeah.
Not always clear.
No, that's really good. And so it can be in some sense inaccessible to the masses, if you will. In fact, that's one of the most typical things is, hey, I really like it, nice stuff, but impractical. How the hell am I going to use this in my office? And again, we're going to go into that in a moment. But I get that. Again, there is a wooga wooga aspect to Jung. One of the accusations is he was basically, at times, psychotic. And he believed in some pretty weird stuff, because he believes that that collective unconscious is future past. It's kind of trans-time, you can tune into futures, all kinds of stuff. Again, remember he came to archetypes by that farmer that was spouting this myth of the 7 seeds from the sun, and it turned out to be an exact word for word of some Egyptian myth. So he thinks we carry this within us, the past, the future, I am going to tell you, as I said at the end, some wooga wooga stories. Doesn't mean it's true, but it's just interesting that this also happened. But that gets kind of weird. I see you're thinking, Paul. No? Okay. Well, then you had a good thinking look. Your persona for the thinker was really good. I'm about to strike a brilliant idea. Any other? And if you think of it as it comes up, you can think of it as it comes up. Okay. We're going to talk about imageries. I think I've said enough on this. Oh, by the way, I sent you guys an email just as a reference for a newer book on Santre. And also, I think it was your question about it's ever used as a measure. And I've forgotten that Bueller used it as a measure. You'll see stuff on that. So at Michigan State University, a guy named DeVay did the following piece of research for his, I think it was his MA actually, not his PhD, with Joe Ryer. You'll remember Ryer, the silver fox, psychodynamic guy. If you want a dissertation, go to Joe. You'll get much joy because he has a lot of projects, very bright, only you have to do it his way. And he was the guy who, his client climbed the mountain, remember that? Obviously because that was his mommy's breast and the cold milk and all that stuff. Also true. He also married 3 former students who were former clients. Not all at once. How about that look? The inner ethical one comes out. In those days, you could do that, I guess. Anyway, bright man. So here's DeVay's piece of research. He puts an ad in the paper and asks for people who have had at least a 3-month seemingly unsolvable problem. They just can't solve it. Please contact him. So they did. He got, I think it was 32, not a big N. It was an MA, because he could get away with a smaller N. And there were problems such as, one woman was trying to write a poem for her mother's 50th, 60th birthday. Just was blanking. One person was struggling in a marriage. Couldn't seem to come up with one guy was like an architect or something, was trying to come up with some design issue. Oh, not that you'd relate to this. One was a graduate student that couldn't come up with a topic for their dissertation. 2 groups. This is pre-cognitive behavioral days, but it was a cognitive problem-solving group. There are formulas for trying to left brain approach, and very good ones. A problem. The other, of course, was the imagery group. And all you do is you sit, you get in a quiet space, and you're kind of getting a guided imagery about the problem, and what images you see, and just kind of guide it. You then leave. You're asked if by any chance in the next 7 days, and next week, a solution happens to come up. Well, lo and behold, I would not be telling you this if it wasn't for the fact that out of the 16 in the imagery group, I think it was 12 came up with a specific solution that they could relate to the actual image, how that image related to that solution. 2 others were less clear but came up, and then 2 didn't have a solution still. It was about the opposite in the cognitive group. So then, and this is what I really like, he then took the cognitive group, did the imagery with them, and got the same stats. That I thought was a nice, clever little piece. You have a comment?
I'm sorry. Did he look at all at the subjects that weren't able to come up with a solution? Like, was there anything going on there, or did?
I don't know. That's a wonderful research question. Some of that research still exists in some microfiche, now hopefully uploaded. I don't know. I just remember that part of it. So, there are various styles or domains, I'll call them, of doing imagery work. One of them is the one he just did, and that is you take a problem and you turn it into an image. You create a solution in the image, and theoretically, and perhaps really, it then gets lived out in the actual life. So, let's see. Which one should I give you as an example? Here's a simple one. So a woman came to me and she said, I'm feeling choked up. By the way, we speak in imageries all the time. If we just would pay attention to what the person is saying, you can just say, wait a minute, see that. I'll tell you one the other day, well anyway. You're feeling choked up. Yeah. It's like literally there's this, I don't know, this thing in my throat. I said, oh, wow. What are you seeing? As you know, I don't even ask people to close their eyes. What are you seeing when you're just saying that? What are you seeing? And she said, oh, I see it's like a river, and it's like, I don't know if it's been like a bunch of beavers or something, but there's like this dam. But it's all kind of clogging everything up, and there's a bunch of like debris, and I mean, very quickly. I said, oh, wow, okay. Racing ahead. Now again, this is where you're directive, because you want to find a solution. So you're a co-guide. So I'm not going to solve it for her, but what I can say, and this is really hypnotic patterning, this is really Milton Erickson stuff. Something, I don't know what it is, but you'll figure it out, is going to come to free up that dam. When, not if, the language is really important. When you see that happening, if it's okay with you got to respect the psyche. I asked every one of you, if it's okay with you, last time, if it's okay to share, please share. If it's okay with you, let me know what that is when it happens. Not if. Not maybes. This is going to happen. It's called a suggestion. She says, oh, wow. I'm seeing these big looming clouds. And now it's raining. And it's raining and the water is rising and now it's just like tumbling through. Oh, wow, cool, cool. And you can see in her face, she's like, And she opened, she did end up closing her eyes, and she opened it and goes, wow, my throat isn't clogged anymore. I don't have that lump in my throat anymore. I said, wow, that's a very powerful image. Now, I did say, what'd you make of it? And she looked at me like, dude, it's obvious. I'm like, I've got to cry. Obviously, I got to have a lot of tears. I have a lot of tears to shed. I said, that's brilliant. What do you want to cry about first? Okay? Problem solving, image. Here's another one. Person comes in, literally. Again, this is all haikus of these whole sessions. Her statement was, I feel I'm drowning. Wow. Okay. So what do I say to her? What if you're a Jungian therapist? What do you say? I feel like I'm drowning. Just say, what are you seeing when you see that? You're drowning. What do you see? Oh, I'm in the ocean. Okay. It's at night, and it's dark, and it's scary, and I'm drowning. Wow. What do you say next? Again, haikuing it very quickly.
Something will come to the rescue.
Absolutely. I don't know what it is, but something's going to come that's going to help. When you see that, if it's okay with you, just let me know. It's a tugboat. Tugboat came, and it had one of those lights, and it finds her, and they toss her one of those old-fashioned lifesavers, not even a life vest, but those round lifesavers that are white with a red stripe. And she puts that on. Again, you want the details. It's oh, by the way, there's another thing very important about imagery. Present tense, happening now, as you see it. Yeah, I'll have you guys do an imagery too. As you see, I've been seeing myself, now I'm putting it on, now I'm being hauled up. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. How are you feeling now? I feel much better. Very cool. I gave her a task. What do you suppose the task was? A ridiculous task. It's okay if you don't know, it's just ridiculous. Oh, dry's good. I said, I know this sounds ridiculous, and if you're going to be ridiculous, tell them ahead of time. Here's my thought for you. There is a 7-Eleven right down the street. I bet they have lifesavers. Go buy a pack of lifesavers and keep it in your pocket if that makes any sense to you. She loved it. She was like, yes, that's fantastic. Next time she comes in the session, she goes, I got my lifesavers. You want one? No, thanks, that's cool. They're very handy. I said, actually take a step further. Just, again, it's just, if you ever see like a life, like for charm bracelet, one of those sterling silver life preserver things, if it pulls you, if it has mana, get it. Wear it around your neighborhood. She'll love that idea. Bring it into the life. Relate to it. By the way, that's what our species have been doing for the last 30, 50,000 years. It's not random what people in Africa and all these other places wear, Native American. That's not random. That's stuff they're relating to. How am I like the mouse? How am I like the eagle? And they paint it on them. Wearing eagle's feathers isn't exactly a random act for Native Americans. We're the ones who are so far away, so distant for our symbols. So we have Gucci purses or Ferrari cars, and that are removed in that way. They're still very much symbolic. That's why we get so connected to them. But most cultures are much more immediate and direct. This is my grandfather right here. This is the spirit of courage. Oh, sorry if I'm dissing any culture. They're very direct about it. So I say, get a lifesaver. Just make it concrete. Okay, you getting a sense of it? Say what?
Like tattoos.
Tattoos! Yes, that's a good, there you go. That's really good. Yeah, and some of them are symbolic. Flames or whatever's. Right, that's good actually. Well, certainly again, other cultures very much so. And the piercings, all the stuff we do, that is not random. Those are living, relating to, being energized by the symbol. By the way,
Another word for this is neural integrative therapy, because you're taking one area of the brain, or whole areas of the brain, limbic, magic mind, all of that, orbital frontal lobes, and integrating them in a kind of balanced way with your prefrontal cortex rational brain. And it can have physio changes. So the lump in your throat is no longer there. It isn't really magic. It might feel like that sometimes. But it makes total sense from a neuro-integrative fashion, because we are all one. Body, mind, spirit, symbol. It's all one orchestra. It's just which section is playing more. And you want balance. Okay? Let me give you... Oh, this is a nice one. Should I use it this way? Yeah, I'll do it this way. Well, no, let's do personal symbols. So those are some problem solving. How are we in time? Yeah, we got one. Problem solving. You change the problem, whatever it is, into an image. Oh, I'll give you the one from the other day. This kid, of course, pumpkin. He's 20s, something. He feels overwhelmed. And he gets this. This is what he said. See, it's like this, he gets up in the morning, he's supposed to go to work, but he just can't get himself to go to work. It's like a kernel, he gets up like at 3. It's like this kernel of an idea. So it's like this little pebble. And then I just start thinking about it, and before you know it, it's like this, it's just like a landslide. It becomes this like snowball, blah, blah, blah. And I go, whoa, whoa, amazing image. Because again, he's talking imagery. Go back to the pebble. Yeah. Now, by the way, notice, well, like with the lifesaver thing, you do get to interact. You get to, like I did with the little kid, I start playing one of the figures, but I keep looking up, am I doing this right? Am I okay here? It's a jam session. And if I'm really tuned into you and my orbital frontal, bimonic with you, then I can make some suggestions that fit for you. If they don't, you go, no. I go, all right, wrong. My weird idea. So with everybody's going, wait a minute, you know what? I'm seeing the seed. It actually is more like a seed. Is it like a seed? Yeah, I'll go with that. Okay. I'm seeing a hawk. What? I'm seeing a hawk. Do you see a hawk? Yeah. What's the hawk doing? Well, he grabbed the seed. Yeah, I've got it too. I've got him grabbing the seed. Again, we're not closing our eyes. We're looking to the, okay, where's he going with that seed now? He's taking it to his nest. So we had this whole little mini image of his taking the seed. Instead of becoming this big landslide, I'll go with that image. Let's transform it. I didn't even say something else is going to happen. I just kind of went on my own image with it, but it fit for him. What I don't know is whether he went to work yesterday. I texted him. I didn't hear. I don't know. Hopefully it was at work. That's why he couldn't get back to me. Different association. Here's another one. Oh, I remember this. This is a dear lady who felt horrible about herself. It was a joy in the world. Misperception. Joy in the world. By the way, one of the gifts of health is to have an accurate, positive perception of self, other, in the world. And if you don't, work on it. Find the part that does. So, she was talking about how she's the life of the party and all that, but really underneath it all, she's shit. I'm just shit. I said, whoa, wait a minute. You know what? I just don't see that. Not to be contrary. And again, I have a relationship with her. We have a connection. I can do this. That's not what I'm seeing at all. So I'm seeing you dancing on a meadow. I don't know why a meadow, but that's what I'm seeing. And, ooh, there's a tunnel that goes underneath. And I'm thinking it's going to a gold mine. And she looked at me and she said, no. It's rubies. And I said, yes, it's rubies. That's what's underneath. Go for it. Go. Let's go into that ruby mine. And so she went down into the ruby mine. And it's this beautiful thing. I said, so that's what's underneath. It's not shit. It's a ruby mine of beautiful. What do you think she wore as a stone for her wedding ring?
Ruby.
You think? With diamonds on the side. She's still happily married. And she called me. I saw her 20 years ago or so. So that she lives out of state and whatnot. They were coming into state. She wanted me to have a session with her 16-year-old son. Thank you so very much. Okay, you just got to pay attention. So there's kind of problems, and there's that was, the one I just described was more of a personal state imagery. And there's a lot of that. Emma, see yourself at age 5 or so, and you're in front of your house, your home, your childhood home. Okay? Describe for us the door of your childhood home at age.
Door?
Yeah.
It's white with like pane glass in the top and the bottom. Has like this curve.
Okay.
Like, or I don't know. It's not like iron, but it's
Okay.
something like that.
Okay. So 5-year-old you is standing in front of that door. What were you called at age 5?
What was I called?
Yeah. Do you have a nickname?
No.
Or? No. Okay.
My dad called me Emmeline. But
Emmeline.
Yeah.
Okay. But you, okay. So you see, so describe for us, again, if it's okay with you, little Emma, present tense, as you're watching her now, age 5-ish, in front of that door. What's she wearing?
like turquoise blue shorts and like a tank top. I guess.
Okay. What color's the tank top?
Just white.
Okay. And shoes or no shoes?
No shoes.
Okay. Okay. Put adult you, current you, in that image with 5-year-old you. Okay? As you see that, describe for us what you're seeing, if it's okay with you.
What I'm seeing?
Yeah, you're seeing adult you with child you. What do you guys do?
Maybe just sitting on the stairs eating popsicles.
Oh, okay. Fantastic. She has something to say to you. If it's okay with you, tell us what she's saying. It could be trite, it could be profound, it doesn't matter.
Enjoy the present moment, I guess.
Oh, okay. That's what she's saying to you.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Enjoy it.
Fantastic. And you have some words for her.
I don't know. I mean, I guess the same. You know, like
Okay.
enjoy it. You know, this time while you can.
Okay. Oh, that's really cool. Enjoy the time again, because guess what? No. Bad news. Oh, just enjoy the present moment. Oh, okay. Thanks.
You too.
Yeah, that's good. You can at some point, not right now, if you want to or whatever, let her know you always will be there for her. I will always be here for you. Always be here for you. You've got great things to look forward to. I am always here for you in your joys and your sorrows. I'm right here. And if she doesn't believe that, you say, I can see you don't believe that. I'm going to earn your trust. I'm going to earn your belief. You're going to believe that. It might take me some time. I look forward to doing that. Okay? You have perfect empathy for her. Perfect empathy for her. More than anybody on the planet. So you let her know. You will always be there for her. Okay? Okay. Sir.
Can you talk a little about the technique with that? Because you had said, like, you put them in the place almost, like imagine a door, and can you just talk,
Sure, a whole bunch of different things. There are very specific things I'm doing. First of all, I got to stay with the present. I want them to see, because they'll say, I can't even do it in non-present. They were, anyway, it's clumsy. You go, no, in the present moment. Childhood door, that's a biggie. Home is an archetype. These are big things. Now, by the way, we could have gone into a tour into your home. That would have been a really interesting thing. It's an interesting thing to do with adult clients. Ask them, see your childhood door. Give me a tour of your house when you're 5 years old. Who's in which room, blah, 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 blah. And have them talk to who's in which. Oh, my dad's sitting there. What do you want to say? What's child you saying to your dad? By the way, it's also important to differentiate. I made it a her, not you. Because you is you here now. She is separate. She's an aspect of yourself. It's the inner child at age 5. So I don't want you to say me, because me is you now. Madam President, chairman of the board, whatever. You're the wise one that's watching all this in a sense. Your ego. You're not a child. So that's really important. They'll start saying I'm, and I go, whoa, no. So sorry to be intrusive. You're meaning her, the child part? Yeah, say her. So that part, make that separation. I knew you'd be able to, do you have a comment?
No, I was just going to say this is really weird that you did that because I was playing around on Google Earth the other day and just went to my childhood address and
that's fantastic.
the same door, and I even thought oh, it's the same, and the stoop and the railings up and everything, so it's just a little bizarre that.
When we get to the Wugga part of Jung, we'll talk about synchronicity. This was a little subtle synchronicity. That's a perfect, what's called meaningful coincidence.
Very interesting.
Because you haven't gone to Google Earth, I don't know, if ever before, and it just happens, I chose you, I don't know why, I just kind of looked over there. Again, it's just a coincidence, but it has an interesting, meaningful coincidence part to it. So let's see. So I pick a very specific spot that I know has potency if I want to evoke her inner child. I make sure that she sees it as a separate person. That's why I asked if it was a nickname. It's even easier if it's a nickname because you don't call yourself that anymore. So, you know. And I rushed it. This is fast. This is 3 minutes. But it's powerful in 3 minutes. I mean, the old cliche about hug the inner child. Yeah, it's really important. It creates neurobiostates that are really positive. And evokes enormous amount. A lot of times more than just talking about it. You're seeing it, you're orbital frontal lobing it, and then you're talking it, integrating it to prefrontal cortex. You're doing your own play therapy as an adult. So I had a client who was horrifically abused as a child by her father over years, sexually abused. She was fabulous. She was a fabulous human being. And she was in tremendous pain, as you might imagine. And she was successful. She was in the financial industry and whatnot. We did a whole series of reparenting imageries where she sees her father about to abuse her. An adult her comes in, says, "Never again. I am calling Child Protective Services, and I'm calling the police right now." And so she did all that in imagery over a series of imageries. And the police come and they take the child. And it was so interesting, I said, how's the child, I'll never forget this, how does the child feel as she's about to walk out the door? Really scared. I thought she'd feel relieved. That's what's cool, you know, it's what they're saying. Yeah, she's scared. She's scared she's betraying her dad, she's betraying her mom, and she's betraying her sister. So she feels guilty for feeling safe. By the way, who does she go to? Adult her. That's who's going to be the foster parent and now the adoptive parent of child her. And she went through all the proceedings, again in her mind, the imageries, great details, goes to court. Same feeling when she got custody, legal custody, and legally got to adopt child her. Very guilty, worried for her sister, but tells child her, "I'm going to take care of your sister." I saw her once on her birthday. So what we did was a whole imagery about giving her child the perfect birthday. It was wonderful, start to finish. What did she get for breakfast? Where are you guys going? You know, we did this whole day. So those are all personal, self-relating imageries. You have a boyfriend, dare I say. So here we go. I want you to see, let's see, which version? We can do so many different versions. Present you with him, and he's age 5. What are you seeing?
A barefoot little boy in North Carolina on the beach.
Okay, perfect. What are you guys doing?
He is teaching me about the waves.
Oh, fantastic. Okay,
The good sets.
perfect. Now put child you, child him. What are the two of you doing together?
Playing on the beach.
Okay?
Building sandcastles.
Oh, fantastic. Now put adult him, adult you, child him, child you. What are the 4 of you doing?
Still on the beach.
Wonderful.
North Carolina Hatteras.
Fantastic.
Teaching the kids sort of the same thing, how to pick the good sets.
Okay, beautiful. I always like to snap fingers to kind of like, phew. Great thing to do with couples. Because by the way, that's how we're relating. We're relating at the child level. Inner child, inner child. Have couples see each other, right? See as they can, and if they're having difficulties, and try and see if they can solve it in the imagery. What needs to happen? What does that child want? We want you to say, you see yourself saying, oh, okay. And if there's a present, a gift, a sand shell, it's one of those or whatever, what are you going to tell the person to do in the world? Go find a sand shell and live with it. Give them that gift. Or one of those, again, silver sand shell, whatever. Bring it to the world, relate to that symbol that was positive in that other area. You're thinking. What are you thinking?
I was thinking how to differentiate between a therapist co-guiding with symbols versus interpreting an image. The difference between an image and a symbol, I suppose.
Well, but image, what they, to me, they're layers of the same. Images are symbols in, the image is what you see of the symbol. The symbol is what it means to the self. So you see that quadrant that she just saw. On one hand, those are, she has a real boyfriend. There's a real her, adult her. There's an image of child her, which was a real manifestation, and child him. But all those images that she saw, we could put them on the screen, are all symbols still for aspects of herself. What's his name?
His name's Corey, and it's actually
Corey.
interesting that that was what came to my mind first. He is a fantastic surfer, and part of what makes him so good is that he knows the sets to leave and the ones to go for. My struggle in life is I pick every fight, and so something that he's taught me in us being together is sort of how to pick your battles or to sort of go with the tides. So it's very interesting.
Perfect.
That was sort of the first thing.
Perfect. So anything can be, if we utilize it, a wisdom, a guidance to balance aspects of who we are. And if we pick good people, they help to do that. But they're still ultimately, in one sense, representing aspects of the self. So there's the inner adult Corey, there's the inner child Corey. It's all aspects of you in this model, in that way. There's also real Corey, and that's great, but there's also the symbolic aspect. And it's a very rich way to live if it fits for you. It does have to fit for you in that sense. But it's amazing how easy it can fit for people if you just guide them a little bit. But you gotta be comfortable in doing this. And you gotta do it for yourself and see child you. And you can do what you see, of course, had you do in the sand world, somebody you see their dad at age 5, that's a really powerful thing. Yes, how are we in time?
I'm wondering when clinically you have an intuition that this would be a good time to use this. Like, how do you decide this is the intervention, or this is what I want to do right now with someone?
Well, I'm oriented that way, and I listen for metaphor in the speech, particularly if it's affect-laden, either in a negative way, like that kid, that young man does struggle with this whole issue. And I try different things. I try the part of him that can get up in the morning versus the part that, isn't, and what's that, label that part and whatnot. But he said the part about the stone, this little pebble that becomes the avalanche. Now, I couldn't pass up that image. That's such a perfect image. So I want to change the beginning part of the image. And so one is that, is listening, and it's got to have feeling. And if it's a really, like when she said, I feel like underneath it all is all this shit, it's a really, and that is her sense, the yum yuck continuum. Remember I told you about that way. Her deep yuckiness is very powerful for her. I want to change that schema. I want to give her a whole new image. Because I can't change it by saying, no, you're not. You're really a good person. Come on, everybody likes you. Here, we can get testaments. None of that's going to work. She's been told that all her life. You got to change it at this orbital frontal limbic. Remember, the limbic defines and defies the logic. You got to change it in that level. And that's the beauty of this. You can go to that level if it connects. And in the context of a relationship where you feel valued and validated. So then you've earned the right to be the co-guide. You got to earn that. Yeah.
I feel like you could do so much with this, just like in the 2 minutes we talk now. I'm like going through like a bullet point of like everything else I'd say too. And like I feel like other people could feel the same way. And I'm wondering, have you ever had like sessions that were spent in this guided?
Oh, totally.
To like, yeah.
Well, like with her, that's all we would do.
Yeah.
In fact, call it pieces. What piece do you want to do today? With her, I'm going to give you another, I know you have to take a break and we'll do that, but when you come back, we'll give you another example of a guy, very military, stern guy, but he was amazing. And there were sessions. And the other thing which you just said, which is really like, I remember there was one where this guy felt really de-empowered and whatnot. So it was kind of like, oh God, what's Back to the Future, where the guy goes back and now the bully, and he beats up the bully, and now it's different than the, well, so he was picked on as a kid. So I said, well, let's see you and the kid, and how do you want to help that kid? He says, well, I'm stronger now, and I've taken karate, so I'm going to teach him karate. So he did. There's this whole imagery of teaching him karate. And now it was time to go. And I felt a little bad. And he said, don't feel bad. I'm seeing him. He's practicing his kicks and punches. He'll be practicing all week long. So it was so cool that he could, in a sense, I can leave it, but it's still happening here. I can still think about this throughout the week. He can still be practicing it throughout. So it's fascinating. Yeah, you open that area, you start clicking, all kinds of things start happening. And it changes how you feel about yourself. And Milton Erickson was fantastic. He wouldn't talk to people. A couple would come in, I think I already told you this one, they're having marital problems. They always have them in December when his parents come into town. And he goes, oh, well, we'll get to that. But first, this is a story I wanted to tell you. I'm like, huh. If you ever watch Milton Erickson, within 38 seconds you're in a trance. There's no way to be around the guy without being in trance, because he just talks metaphor all the time. He's just a verbal sand tray. He's just constant. So there was this town, and the floods would come in December, man. They just like, and the people were just freaking out, and things were, and then they figured out, gondolas. Venice is considered one of the most beautiful cities in the world because it has these canals. And the water isn't the enemy. The water brings the joy. I'm encapsulating very quickly, obviously, something. And these gondolas and boats floating, blah, 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 blah. Oh, I'm sorry, our time's up. What'd you come for again? If you still need to see me, make another appointment. They never made another appointment. He changed the way they frame it and see it. It's not a flood, it's Venice, it's beautiful. And now how he trusts that somehow manifests into actual behaviors based on attitudes about the in-laws. And they didn't get in fights anymore because they see it differently. And it's just for 2 weeks. And that's the thing, it's for 2 weeks, it was Venice for 2 weeks, it's like a big carnival fair. It's like Woodstock, whatever happened, then it goes away and it's fine. What'd you say? Oh, sorry, don't have time for it. He doesn't even bother. And even if he's pretending to do the left brain, it's all about the right brain for him, constantly. Again, uncommon therapy. You will not get your license before at least reading 3 pages of that book. Actually, I think I have a URL for a free download of that book, which I'll get to you. Go take a break, but do come back. I'm so sorry. Come back in 10 minutes. We have so much to cover. And we only have 2 more classes, I think, or 3. 1, 2, 3. 3 more after today. All right, go. Come back at 20 after. Thank you. Okay, we're back. Titus Kinimaka, Hawaiian big wave surf warrior. Was surfing Waimea Bay, you can't really see this, crashed and burned, broke his femur, had to be helicoptered out. Months of recovery. One of the ways he dealt with immense pain was the following. Right after I woke up in the morning, I would go into this state. I would focus on the pain, and the pain would take me into an out-of-body state. I would go through all this light with all these different colors shooting by. I ended up on the other side of the light. I was in this garden-like place, and I came up to this plantation-style house, and there was a big fish pond full of lilies, frogs, and swans. There was a beautiful willow tree hanging down in front of the house, and I'd walk up onto the deck, big white deck with oiled floor. And there was a beveled glass on the doors and windows. It was just a beautiful place to be, and the whole time I was there, I felt no pain in my body. At the same time, if I looked back over the shoulder, I could see myself lying in the bed in the hospital. But if I turned and looked back at the house and garden, I felt no pain in my body. Every day I would do this for about an hour and a half. I understood that I had tapped into some sort of ancient mind-traveling thing. I realized that this must be some kind of energy that every one of us has. We just have to tap into it when we need it. Thank you, Titus. Jungian surf healer. By the way, a guy named Symington, cancer doc, had a client, an inoperable tumor. So just for the heck of it, I know what to do, had him imagine the tumor as rotting hamburger meat that was being eaten by white wolves, which in a sense represented the white blood cells. And at least in that particular case, those tumors actually went away. Doesn't work every time. But he does have at the Symington Institute, and it's an imagery-based, along with other kinds of treatments. You do everything, but you might as well add imagery. And he also has family members, friends, anybody else do the imagery with the person or for the person. To know that. By the way, speaking of, Einstein came up with a theory of relativity, I think I told you this, by an image of a boy on a tricycle riding a curved light beam. Keku came up with the benzene ring by an image of a snake eating its own tail. What's her name? Shelley, that wrote Frankenstein, came up with a whole section of that book in an imagery. Imageries have been used throughout for creating that part of the brain. So I had this, let's go to the military guy, again about imageries. I was seeing his son. He calls me, I'd finished that and I hadn't seen him in years, a couple of years. He calls me out of the blue. He says, listen, I got to tell you something. I've got to come in. I physically abused our foster child. I know you have to report it, but by the way, I already reported it. He is no longer in the home, but I've got to figure out what in the world is going on that I did that. So I said, wow, you are a brave man. He came in. The guy looked like a hawk. He's a military guy, and he has, not to be stereotyped, but he had this perfectly coiffed mustache, kind of angular features. He never smiled. Very serious guy. Yes, sir. He was astounding, the kinds of imageries he would do. And notice the details, by the way, when Titus is talking about the bevel glass, and that's what happens when you really get into it, the details. About video games, it's like your own uniworld. So he would have these detailed images of seeing himself as a child and adult him and blah, 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 blah. And he did fabulous in that. So I remember one time, and this is more kind of problem procedural, changing it into something else. I happened to cut my finger, and it was like, and I was racing out the door, in fact, to go to work and then eventually see him. So I happened to have, I know this sounds crazy, but I had some crazy glue. So I thought, bind skin, what the heck? And I bound it. I thought, okay, there's a point to it. I'm seeing him. He's talking about his broken heart. Literally, he says, a broken heart. So what do I suggest we do? Well, I get to that. I said, of course, well, let's do open heart surgery. He goes, oh, of course. So he does the prep, the whole thing. He opens his heart. Well, he's watching the doctors doing this. And of course, there's a crack in the heart. It's a broken heart. And they heal it. And of course, he said, because he saw the bandage. He said, what's up on that? I said, I cut my, but I happen to use crazy glue. So he actually then said, what? They're using crazy glue to bind the heart break there. And now he's sewed up, and anyway. And then he had his wife come in the imagery and the recovery, and it was amazing. He did another one. This is classic. At one point he was talking about all the garbage he carries about his mom, dad, and brother. So what do we do? Now neo-Jungian pragmatic therapists. What do you do? The guy says, I have all this garbage I'm carrying around about my mom, my dad, and my brother. Let's do a clean out, man. Let's dump that garbage. What do you see? He saw these big black, those garbage bags, big black bags. Most was for mom, and he had the white tape on it, mom. Next pile, less big, was dad. Smaller pile, but still a pile, was brother. And again, this is where it's the personal, subjective. I thought he was going to have like the city, he says, no, I'm going to dump this. So he sees himself in a big kind of U-Haul truck thing, and he had to do a bunch of rides to the dump, to dump the garbage. Okay, all this did help him feel much better in the world. I had this guy, I still see him. In fact, I'm seeing him tomorrow. I've been seeing him now once a month or every 6 weeks for probably almost 20 years. He just comes in, well, years ago when I saw him, he was a financial planner, new to the game, and they made him do cold calls. And he hated to do cold calls. I don't blame him, but I can't imagine. He says, I hate it, but I got to do it. I said, okay, I don't know, give me some image of somebody who can do cold calls or something. I don't know, give me something about the cold calls since you have to do this. Pragmatic unionism. He goes, oh, did you ever see, movie way before your time, All the President's Men? Yeah, Redford and Hoffman. Yeah. Remember Hoffman in that movie? Yeah, that guy could cold call. That guy was on that phone, deep throat, he's talking. He once had to get some information. He says, I gave you the stamp. I'm going to count to 10. You don't have to say anything. If you make so much as a cough, it means no. If you say nothing, it means yes. I used that once to get a drug analysis thing when I gave him a count of 3. So that guy, I said, perfect. Do you have the book? Yeah. If I remember, on the cover, you see Redford and Hoffman. They're like running. It's a blue cover. Yeah. Bring the book to work. Put it in front of you. So you can see Hoffman right there. And channel the inner Hoffman. He goes, cool. He did that. It was helpful. What was more helpful? He hired a graduate student to do the cold calls for him. That's fine. That's even better. But still, it helped. The woman I told you about, who reparented herself, who adopted herself, right? As one might well imagine, one of the things she felt was very, very unfeminine. As one might imagine, it might be very threatening to feel feminine. As a matter of fact, she happened to be very feminine, but that's not how she felt. And it bothered her. And again, she worked in the financial business and all that. So I asked her, what represents femininity to you? What do you think she said? I can't do pirouettes. Ballerinas. I said, oh, that's fabulous. And by the way, where do you feel least feminine? My work environment. Ballerinas, fantastic. So what did I suggest that she does? Of course, get either, I mean, she'd go take ballet or whatever, but if she gets an image, some image of a ballerina. I mean, God knows, Picasso painted it, Degas painted, I mean, there's more than an abundance of images of ballerinas that she could bring to work and put. And what did she choose? I don't know if you've ever seen this poster. It was very popular at one point. Just these worn out, tattered ballerina shoes. It's just because that was subtle. And this is a business thing. She didn't want all the Degas thing and all that. Maybe that was too much. Pink tutus or white. But the shoes. Okay, so you take an image, you take a problem, a self-state. It's really a self-state. And sure, it has to have a verbal voice also. But transform it. The yin, the yang, the other opposite would be the feminine. Live with that. Thank you. Okay, is there anything else I want to tell you on this? Ballerina. I think we're good. Get that concept. Piece of paper. Take out a piece of paper, please. And I want you to make it into a quadrant. What I mean is draw a line down the center and across. Now you have 4 quadrants, 4 blocks.
Can we use half a page, or do you want a whole?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to have you do something, so it's probably better to use the whole page.
I was just, okay.
Yeah, whatever. But I do want the quad. You can see what I mean by a quadrant? You're going to have 4. You need a page? All right, here we go. Why don't you think of a dream that you've had? Actually, somebody had, was she not here today? Somebody had a dream last time, actually. I don't know who it was. Anyway, I want you to think of a dream. And if you can't think of one, make one up. I love when they say, I can't think of any dream. Great, make one up. It's going to be the same thing. Okay, now, one easy way to look at dreams is that they kind of have 3 parts. There's the beginning, like you're walking in the park or something. By the way, I want this to be a not positive dream, like a little disturbing dream, or a dilemma dream, or a recurring dilemma dream. It should be clear. So you walk in the park, whatever. Oh, you hear some footsteps. So now it's kind of like, and then, the bad guy or somebody's after you, and you're frozen, you can't get away. The dilemma. And then you wake up, the cold sweat. Okay? So you're thinking of a dream. What you can do is represent those three aspects in whatever way you want. Little stick figures in the first three blocks. So walking in the park, la 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 la. What's that? Ah! Okay. Who's got a dream they're willing to share? You have a dream you're willing to share? Please tell us.
It's pretty weird. I had a dream like maybe a year and a half ago that so it was me and my mom staying at some kind of like bed and breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
It was all happy and fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, I just knew that a storm was coming. Like a really bad storm was coming.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew my boyfriend was around somewhere, but not with us.
Okay.
That's all I knew in the dream.
Okay.
So I was worried about if they would close roads or something, like not being able to talk or
Okay.
just wanting him to be together with us.
Okay.
And then somehow it switches to a different like panel where it's me and my boyfriend wondering where my mom is, like out
Okay.
there.
Okay.
And then there's just like, we were kind of in this room where the top is, like the room was circular and the top goes up to a point.
Okay.
Like kind of like the top of a castle or something.
Wow. Okay.
And then the entire room starts to fill with water.
Oh, wow.
And it's like narrowing and we're both there. And I'm like really worried because I can't remember this person that I'm next to is my mom or my
Okay.
boyfriend, but either way, it really bothers me that we're not like all together.
Okay, fantastic. And this was a dream you had like a year and a half ago or something.
Yeah.
See how vivid, dreams are amazing, how vivid. You can remember dreams from childhood, they stay with you. Okay, fantastic. One other dream, please, thank you. Anybody? Somebody who hasn't talked in a while.
Oh my God.
Okay.
So I'm driving. This is actually a dream that I've had like multiple times, so I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay.
I'm driving, there's friends in the car, and then all of a sudden the road leads to like nowhere. Like we're above all these mountains. There's
Okay.
no other cars on the road.
Okay.
And then it flips to like an aerial view of me driving, and I'm supposed to like hop on a different freeway.
Okay.
And so I try to like cut the corner and I end up falling.
Oh,
But as I'm falling, I'm telling my friends, this is just a dream, we're okay.
beautiful.
So it's like
Okay.
kind of weird. That
Okay. Okay, fantastic. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to represent that dream, whatever dream you have, in three segments. The first three blocks of what happens in the beginning, then the oh my goodness, and then the oh no part. And then just stop, okay?
In
Click.
images or can we write words?
You can write words, images, whatever you want, something that represents in some way those three parts. Okay? Okay, good. So there's a woman named Cartwright who did the following piece of research. She, and again, research is all imperfect. I know that. You guys could tear this research apart, but that's okay. She got depressed women who had recurring nightmare come into her sleep clinic, and she would watch them sleep. Obviously, sleep clinic researchers are insomniacs who are envying the people who can sleep even with all this wiring around them. And here's what she'd do. She'd look for the REM, and sure enough, there's the REM, and then she'd wake the people up, and they are having that dream. She'd say, okay, go back to sleep. Then, when she saw him during the day, she'd say, you know, you can signal when you have that dream. You can learn to signal. Just move your little index finger. Let us know you're having that dream. Really? Yeah, just know that. Tell yourself before you go to sleep, I can signal. I'm going to do my index finger when I have that dream. They're asleep. Here comes the REM. They look, and sure enough, they're signaling. Wake them up. What's happening? I have that dream. Okay. Let's make up a dream. What's a negative dream that one of these depressed women might have? Anything, I don't care. They're in the desert. And or something. I could change it.
Water, they're thirsty.
Right. Perfect. They're in the desert. There's no... I think there's a car ad now with that where... What's his face? Yeah, see, that fucking ads are everywhere. I just hate that they get into our psyche. Ugh. But at least I don't know what it's for. That's what I love. Neener, neener, neener. Don't know what it's for. Don't tell me. I didn't hear you. That's the good news. Probably a car. I know there's a car involved. I know it's, what's that hip guy?
It's a Kia.
Ah, you told me. Ha!
I needed to remember too.
Doesn't matter. All right, doesn't matter. All right, back. But it is that hipster guy. He's a rapper or something.
Yeah, same thing.
All right. P. Diddy, that's it.
I was wrong, so you still don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. What's that kind of right? Take it out. Anyway, the point of all this, that's the dream we're having. So back to Cartwright. Come back. The associative mind goes so far. Because you know, you can come up with a solution to that dream. What would you like to see happen in that dream? So what should we see happen in this dream? Except I know what we're now going to do. What would be a solution to this dream?
Find the hidden money.
We'll find some hidden money. Okay, we're in the desert though. How's the money going to help us?
It's like a well.
Okay, there's a well. There's money there to boot, okay? Yay for materialism. But there's also water. And one of those satellite cell phones. There's a satellite cell phone. So we go to, what, sorry, say?
No, I just said sitting next to the well.
Yeah, sitting next to the well. Satellite cell phone. Well, plenty of water.
Camel backpack.
Camel backpack with lots of food and stuff.
For the water, so she can carry.
Oh, yeah, of course. Thank you. Very good. All right.
There's Starbucks, like right behind.
Oh, God. Okay, there's a Starbucks there. It's our dream. It's our mutual creative dream. Right, the Starbucks. There's a whole bunch of food. It's all good, man. There's got the Learjet. We can be there enough. Anyway. So here's what Smart Cartwright does. Based on fundamental Pavlovian principles. So let's see here. You're in the desert, no water. You see a well. You see a satellite phone. You see a Starbucks. You see. What does she do? I swear to God, she rings a bell while you're saying those things. Ding. I'm hearing bells. Yeah, don't worry about it. Run it again. Desert, a well, money, satellite phone, Starbucks, lattes. Ding. So now what's she going to do? That night while you're sleeping, you're signaling while your REM is going. What does she do? Ding! You keep on sleeping. You wake up. What happens? It was so fantastic. And the guy at Starbucks was so cute. Sorry. Or gal. It doesn't matter. Those women were much less depressed. Now, unbelievable amount of intervening variables. Okay, but it was a study about depression, by the way. So what am I going to have you do, obviously, with your drawing? Take that fourth quadrant and find a solution to your non-conscious dilemma, your right brain dilemma, and apply in an integral narrative or neural integrative way
a left brain solution to a right brain problem. Please. And I know I'm being way over fast, so I'm just saying, here's and sometimes it might take a lifetime to come up with a solution, oh, by the way, to honor the complexity of the soul. But here, I'm just asking for a quick, if you can come up with one. And draw it.
What if it's something that happened to you? If something happened to you,
Oh.
find a solution?
You come up with a, they're all the more important. It's like in trauma.
Or is it post, like it still happened, but now we have a different solution?
Correct. It happened to you. So what? It's like a redo. What would you have wished would have happened? And see that. See, the best news about all this, by the way back, there was a guy named Penfield. And he started doing brain research where he would actually trigger memories by touching certain areas of the brain. Very crude compared to nowadays, way before fMRIs. Well, one of the things you discover is you do an imagery, whether it's a redream, whether it's a lifesaver thing and whatnot, and you do the details like he's doing those details. I mean, you're smelling it, you're hearing it, you code it as if it really occurred. You can give yourself the childhood you never had. Your neuroanatomy won't know the difference. So if you Penfield it, you would have that memory of being in front of the door with little you and all that. You'd have the memory of being the four of you on the beach. Even though it never really happened, guess what reality is? It's here. You think it's out there? It's here. You create your own reality in that sense, and it's just as real. I don't know if you've ever been, this one really brought it home to me. You ever been to California Soaring as part of California Adventure? Oh my God, what it is, it's a simulation ride. You go in this room, I don't want to spoil it for anybody. Well, I'll tell you anyway. This is important. I mean, if you don't want to, just go, I told you about my challenge about heights, right? And how I got over it from my kid. I'm a hawk, height is beautiful. So here's a simulation ride, and it says if you're afraid of heights, you might not be comfortable. I'm like, come on, it's a simulation. You're sitting in a room. I know what's real. I go in there, and you sit, and it's kind of like a stadium-ish thing. You're sitting, and everything goes dark, okay? And suddenly you rise. Well, the first time I did, I was on the lower level of the rising. So I looked down, and I'm 5 feet off the ground. I was like, everything's really dark. Okay, and now there's light, and now it's like fog or something. Oh! Oh my, And I'm telling myself, wait a minute, this is ridiculous. Come on, you're in the room, you're 5 feet off the ground, you're with a bunch of people, that's real. I am 300 feet above the Golden Gate, flying. Unbelievable. You put in enough input to this, and you believe it's real. Because it's perfect. It was a perfect simulation of reality. You can smell it, see it, hear it, feel it. It surrounds you. And then after, I literally, the first time, I was like, oh my God. And then I thought, wait a minute. This is implosion therapy. This is perfect. I went on that ride 5 times. I did. I'm like, I'm back on it. I waded through the lines, I'm back on it. And it really was. The second time was kind of like, And by the 5th time, I'm like, yeah! Because it also kind of takes you and you start turning, and there's the famous golf ball that comes at you. I know it's not, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Then I want like different ones. Can we do Paris? Can we do, we can do a bunch of different, I thought if I was really wealthy, that's what you do. You'd have these. It's unbelievable. But the point of that is reality's here. And your logic mind knows you're sitting in a room 5 feet on the ground. Your experiential reality is you're 500 feet above or 1,000 feet above the Golden Gate looking down. Oh my God. It's unbelievable. That's what imagery, that's the power of imagery. So, there's all kinds of ways to work with dreams. There's a wonderful tribe called the Senoi Indians in Malaysia. They were a dream culture. They did not give any more value to waking state or dream state. It's all different aspects of state. So if you had a dream about being mean to a neighbor, you'd wake up and say, I'm so sorry, I had a dream about being mean to you, so here's a bunch of eggs. That's a gift. It's a make-do. You had a dream that some creature's chasing you. This is called lucid dreaming. You'd say, wait, what? Stop. Why are you chasing me? You're mean. I need a gift from you. I need an amends. I want a dance. So they'd show a dance. That morning, hey, I had that dream I was taught a dance. I want to teach the tribe the dance. Teach the tribe the dance. Lucid dreaming. They would do tasks. If you're about to fall off a cliff, you gain wings and fly and see where you go. They were very good at doing this. By the way, they were supposedly a very peaceful, wonderful tribe, and the tribes around them were mean and awful and headhunters. But these guys are groovy and gals are groovy. We based St. George's work, dream work, on the Sonoy Indians. So we would have them do dream tasks. And when, again, I was a head resident, I ran a home, right? And I gave, so my room was upstairs above 3 of the girls. We had 6 in the home. 3 of them were right below me. So I gave them a broom. And they're sealing my floor. They have a bad dream. Doom, 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 doom. I come down. I remember one where this, we'll call her Jennifer. Jennifer, her arm was all cut like this. She was very scared. I said, okay, honey, all right, arm's cut. What do we need to do? We got to wash it. We got to put ointment. We got to put a band-aid. 2-point response. For those of you who remember the Whisk-R, absolutely, let's do this. She's not psychotic. She knows she doesn't have a real cut. Neuro-integrative approach. You take a left brain approach to a right brain stated symbolic problem. And when she went to the daycare the next day, she said, what happened? Oh, I had a dream about a cut, but I took care of it. And because we're a dream culture, everybody's, oh, that's cool. That's the first thing they would do in the morning when they would come gather in the school, is share dreams and do a dream ceremony and be assigned tasks. And sometimes if they couldn't find a solution, they would simply draw with one of their counselors a golden circle around the darkness to contain it. I remember, I think I told you about this kid who broke more noses than anybody there. He was the one to go, sniff it, sniff it. And to the new trainees, they were like, oh God, what do we do with Hank? Ah. He would go into very psychotic states. By last week there, we'd have him literally in a rubber room sometimes because the Thorazine wasn't enough. And I did an overnight shift with him. And I was just like, please don't break my nose, please. And I managed to have him not break my nose. But he would love objects, like little pieces of anything, like certain rocks. And of course, glass. This guy was amazing at finding little pieces, shards of glass, and he would take them. I'm like, I'm sorry, Hank, I know how much you love this glass. We have to put it in the contained. Anyway, we worked with him on this. So he'd have horrible dreams. So he had a prayer. And he had a power pouch, leather, with all these little objects, not the shard glass, but there was some smooth glass that he promised he wouldn't break, and we'd check it, and he didn't. And he would take that pouch, and he would put it under his pillow. And he had this prayer. As I enter the night sea journey, I take my pouch of power against the demons of the dark. Oh, somebody gives me light. And he says that sometimes the demons in the dark would come and he would see himself standing with this pouch of power that had this aura of light all around it, and the demons would shrink. Kids, never mind psychotic people, are very near that archetypal world. I once had a dream of, I'm in the city, I'm looking for Donna. Donna was a high school sweetheart. And it's live action until all of a sudden, out of nowhere, comes this huge British racing green giraffe. And says, she's over there. Wow. I took a sheet of paper that was about the size of this, well, about half the size of this, and I somehow channeled the green giraffe. And I did the perfect drawing in British racing green of that giraffe. And I hung it on my ceiling. Poor Marcia at the time had to deal with all my psychic content everywhere. I had the gavel hanging there, and I had to South St. George, and I had but at least on my half, the green giraffe. You're my guide, buddy, you're my guide.
And I had it until I left St. George and came home, and I put it on my room, my wall, or ceiling in my room at home. And it looked silly, or cute. It didn't have the mana. Symbols come, they have power, and then they don't. Some symbols stay all your life. Yes?
That's really interesting. I actually never made this connection before, but when I was younger, my favorite Disney movie was Cinderella.
Yeah.
So, and it kind of still is, but so at this point, every time I'd have a nightmare, my mom would remind me to think of this one scene, and it was my favorite scene in the whole movie. And till this day, every time I wake up with a nightmare, I'm just like replaying
Perfect.
that scene in my head.
Perfect.
I don't even do it consciously anymore. It just comes in like
Perfect.
reflex, and it just makes.
That's beautiful. That's exactly. You're lucid dreaming. You can bring, you are in charge. That same brain part of you is in charge. Yeah. So what'd you do for your fourth quadrant? And then yours is complicated because there's all these different aspects.
Well, the thing that came back to me, I kept thinking of more realistic things, but then
That's
I
fine.
went back to my original thing, which was a chainsaw.
Okay.
Chainsaw the top off.
Okay. That's fine.
The water can
Okay.
go out, yeah.
So if you were a really ridiculous Jungian-esque therapist, what might you tell her to go find or do? A chainsaw. If you can find a little miniature chainsaw, keep it by your bed. Don't let people know that. It might freak them out. Or something, or some other. But yeah, the idea is you take whatever helped and create an object, find it in the world, or draw it, and put it by your side. Seals were my totem animal for eons. I remember watching one swirl through this tight, ridiculous northwest storm swell at Santa Cruz. When I was at St. George, I was to go surf Santa Cruz. And here's a seal, and I thought he was trapped. I was like, oh God, because there was this rock and the shoreline and this cliff. And then I realized he's not trapped, he's enjoying this. He's like going through, and then he comes back out, and then he chooses to go back through this cacophony of chaotic. And I just been jarred by traffic and all that stuff. And I thought, oh my God, if the seal can deal with that, I can deal with traffic. I will channel the inner seal. Back to my client, the now ballerina. She would have a recurring dream, as you might well imagine. She's on the beach. She's walking. A lot of people have these kinds of dreams. We don't realize how horrifying it is when you're there and you feel so real. The water would come sucking out. She would look, and sure enough, it's this one huge singular tsunami wave, giant wave. And it invariably come and drown her. That's it. Oh. And she said, with tears, you know, one of my horrific memories of my dad is he'd have me be naked and he would hose me down. And it just felt, he was in a sense supposedly cleaning me. And I just hate it. And I think in part that wave, and she did translate it, and that's fine. It's not wrong if you translate it and say, I think that wave is my dad. Because and she's just weeping. He has drowned my spirit. He has drowned my spirit. And I say to her, again, sometimes you can do this. And I say, wait a minute. Because as a matter of fact, I mean, objectively, if you met her, she is a fabulous human being. I haven't seen her in years. By the way, she became a therapist. But she is fabulous. And I said, wait a minute. Spirit is of air. Water cannot drown air. Just know that. Swear to God, she comes back the next week and she says, you won't believe this. So there I am on the beach. You know what's going to happen. I knew what's going to happen. Like, oh no. The water sucks on. I look on the horizon, and the horizon disappears because here comes this ginormous wave again. No, not again. And it comes over me, and suddenly, I'm in a bubble of air. And the air bubble floats right on up through the wave, and then I'm looking down on the wave as it passes by. And I'm really happy as I'm floating in this bubble of air. It's a song, it's a dance, it's a jam session. Just listen. Change it. Okay? All right. Yes?
That's also a good example of how the subjectivity can be so effective. Like for her, it's this negative, daunting image of her father. For you, it's this image of self and
Right. No, really well said. I mean, again, but father also stands for something. And everything stands for, it goes on. But yes. But it's also about if you have a connection. It's still relationally based. If I didn't have any connection with her, it's like, but I have a connection. So I'm attuned to her. And it is also a truth that, by the way, water can't drown air, as a matter of fact. And her spirit really is intact, as a matter of fact. It's a false belief, but anyway. All right, we're changing it to a different level now. Ready for the wooga wooga. So there was a student, a grad student of clinical psychology. I don't think it was this school. As a matter of fact, it was this client who told me about this student, by the way. He was in a hypnosis class. Volunteered to be hypnotized. Comes up, professor hypnotizes him, and he does this, all these different things. And the prof says, okay, very nice, thank you for the demonstration. And then he suddenly says, well, wait, there's a spirit in the corner up there, and it wants to come and talk to the class through me. Everybody's like, what? Oh, well, what do you think? I forgot this guy's name. I think it's John. I used to have his name and number. John, well, I think it's John. What do you think, John? It's up to you. Oh, no, that's fine. Okay. Bloop. Now, of course, he talks in some Irish brogue. Why not talk in Irish brogue? And he has some name like Ictha or something, one of those. Okay. So they're spirits, supposedly, this guy says. This bad, nyik spirits is really good spirits to try to guide us and whatnot. He's a good spirit, wants to guide and whatnot. And they know everything about us and all this other stuff. So the prof says, okay, fine. Tell the class something about me that there's no way John could know. You really want me to do that? I'm sorry for the ridiculous accent. Really? Really? God, any Irish person would go like, nails on chalkboard. Yeah. Okay, so of course he says some unbelievable dark secret, and the prof's like, 4 shades of chartreuse. Ictha didn't want to leave John. Ictha liked this. Ictha found his medium, found his way of talking to the world. John is not a psychologist. John is a psychic. He's a really good psychic. And they had to share the hardware. They had to take turns. They came to an agreement that John would change his, I love your look, like, really? Come on! That's a great look. Cameras, I mean, sometimes it'd be really good. Like, yeah, he gave up grad school. I mean, it was a real dilemma. This is a huge dilemma. Now, some would say he went psychotic. You could interpret it in all kinds of different ways. But he decided, okay, we're going to share the floorboard here. But I got to have my time. But I'm going to give you yours. I'll become a psychic. Good enough? Good enough. Apparently he's an extremely good psychic. By the way, when I was at UC Davis, the Carl tape, every 3 months we would have somebody come in and chat with us. Well, it's the Bay Area, so we had a psychic, Nancy Tuppy, was a very well-known psychic, come in. She became a psychic, same kind of dilemma. She wasn't hypnotized, but she started having images and voices. And she went to her husband and says, I'm either going crazy, really psychotic, and need to go to a hospital, or I'm transforming into somebody else. What should I do? And of course, the good husband says, what do you want to do? She says, if you'll stay with me, I want to transform. Okay. And she did. And she's a very well-known psychic. And she does readings kind of like I gave her, she'll see an image, you give her a word. I actually gave her the word home, I remember that. And then she did this image and gives it to you. She did say, psychics do different things, she's not a finder, but she did happen once to be at a workshop where somebody lost a contact lens in an Olympic-sized pool, and she pointed out where she thought it was, and they went and they found it. I mean, okay? So it was a very well-known psychologist. I forgot his name, but well-known research psychologist. And so he writes in a peer-reviewed journal, you all know me, and I'm going to share this experience just because you do all know me and you respect me. I believe I've earned the trust and respect of my colleagues as a research psychologist. I just want to tell you this experience. I'm driving on the LA freeway. There's little traffic. You know something's weird if you're on the LA freeway and there's little traffic. That in itself is a psychic phenomenon. But it gets better, or worse as the case may be. I look to my left, and all of a sudden, a former grad school colleague of mine, whom I haven't seen in 20 years, drives by in a green VW bus and waves at me. And I'm very excited to see him, and I wave back, and I point to an exit because I wanted to touch base with him. So I see him, I come up the exit, I look, and I don't see any green VW bus. And I could see the freeway ahead of me, and we just forget. Huh. You know exactly where this is going. Every one of you knows where this is going. If you don't, you'll know the next moment. Lo and behold, about 6 months later, there's a reunion of the class. So he goes to the reunion, happy to see all his colleagues, and he's looking for, I don't remember the guy's name, we'll say Bob, looking for Bob. No, Bob. Hey, guys, where's Bob? What happens? Everybody turns sheep. What do you mean, what, you heading in here? No, I saw him. It was like 6 months ago. It was unbelievable. Actually, maybe it was 3 months ago. And it was so amazing. I was on that, you know, it was really weird. The guy loved Jaguars. I remember that. And he would never have any other car. The weird thing is, he was in this green VW bus, and he was right next to me, and I called him off, and he like vanished. Now they're really sheep white. They're like, you didn't hear? No. Well, he took his Jaguar in to be fixed. You're right, he was a Jaguar guy. He took it in to be fixed. They gave him a loaner car. He went on the freeway, and he had a head-on collision, died immediately. Come on, people, what car did they loan him? Come on, let's say it all together, shall we? Green VW bus. I am not making any claims of being a psychic. I'm not making any claims to explain what did or didn't happen. I am telling you my truth. Signed, so-and-so. Sharon McGoldrick is my best friend McGoldrick's wife. She's got some of that power. Example. She's lying in bed on a Sunday morning. And around 10 o'clock, which is a little late for her to be in bed, she suddenly, and she's been fine, suddenly gets this, oh God, retching feeling that she has to throw up. And she wakes up, looks, and it's like 10:09. Oh, she doesn't throw up, but she's like, oh, Joe. And then she remembers, oh no, he didn't even know. Joe leaves a note. So-and-so called, so I went on a fishing trip. Went on a boat. And where was he at 10:09? He was, as it happens, exactly down Bird Rock Avenue in the ocean on that boat. And how was he feeling? Seasick. Totally seasick. Like he was going to throw up, but he didn't. Okay, it's just meaningful coincidence. I don't know. Actually, my mom used to be very bright. She was one of the termites, one of the term study people. She loved to read, but she didn't like to read what the school would do. What she noticed is when she worried about being called on, she was called on. She thought, well, this is easy. I'll read the part that I'm supposed to, that I'm going to worry. They're going to call me. I'll read that part, and then I'll be done with it, and then I'll read the rest. And she said it worked every time. She remembers in her young adulthood, she doesn't remember what came to her. Something came to her, and she said, I don't want this, go away, and it went away. And she never had it since. Paul, please share.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I'd written as one of the responses this experience that happened to me when I was maybe just after college, and I take a break between college and grad school, and was doing some work as a personal care assistant, and home taking care of a older couple who was coalescing, and he had cancer, he was dying of cancer, and she had Alzheimer's, and she was pretty far gone into it. And so I was there the night that he died. I was hired to be there for both of them, but the majority of the time I was taking care of her, and then I was there the night that he died, and it was a very kind of creepy experience. It was because their house was very dark, and it was kept dark, and the nurse, one of the nurses at the end of life,
Hospice?
yeah, the hospice nurse had said, check every 15 minutes, so I had to keep checking every 15 minutes, but his pulse was so shallow that I couldn't really tell. So the last 3 times it was really hard to tell, and the final time that I made the decision to, that in my mind, I said, yes, he's passed away. She was sleeping next to him. Really, and in general, she never woke up. There was always kind of in the depths of Alzheimer's. The moment that I said that in my head to myself, she sits up, does a straight sit up out of bed and just starts screaming and wailing. And they had separate beds, and she's leaning over to him saying, goodbye, 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 and crying. And first of all, it scared me. Yeah. It's just like, not expecting it. It was already kind of a really intense experience, and that was something that really changed my perspective on how connected we can be, and how it really actually in a lot of ways changed my idea about love and how we relate to each other. And there's something unseen or unknown that we do. But,
Yeah. So Sharon, again, speaking of that, Sharon, Joe, and Floss, Joe's mom, go out for dinner. They have a very nice dinner. They drop Floss off. Floss, by the way, is fine. Been fine. There's nothing, just fine. Everything's kind of normal. Sharon has a dream that night. Floss comes to her, says, it's okay. It's okay. I'm going to get teary-eyed. Tell Joey it's fine. I'm fine. It's all good. Just know that I love you both. Love you all, blah, 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 blah. Wakes up, tells Joe the dream. Weird dream. Isn't it? Phone rings. It's now in the morning. Who's on the other end of that phone? Not Floss. His sister, Sandy. What is Sandy telling Joe? Floss died that night. Meaningful coincidence? Floss died that night. There was no prior indication. There's no lingering. There's no cancer. No, nothing. She just happened to die that night. Sharon just happened to have that dream. Actually tell Joe that dream in the morning. Later that. Now maybe, I have no idea. Nobody has any idea. But maybe it's kind of like, what's that boss, Higgs boss, energy force, that thing? Yeah. It's like this whole other energy force field, whatever, that accounts for a lot of stuff. Maybe there's some kind of other energy force field that we don't see, don't know, but I bet it has to do with mirror neurons. Bet it has to do with something to do with mirror neurons. So let me give you a powerful one from my life. And I'm really, again, I don't even believe in God, so I don't believe in any of this stuff. So I'm about 15, something like that, and my mom is sick. And in those days, they actually did house calls. And good old John Welsh, who was everybody's doctor, comes, and they're in the room there, and I'm not sure that anybody's going to really tell me what's going on. So I listen through the door, and I hear my mom say something about. He asked her about, so you've had natural birth, Yanon, and she said something about, I swear she said 2 births. Was I born twice? I mean, it made no sense to me. And I remember her telling me somewhere in my teenhood that someday, when I get older, there's some things she needs to tell me about her life. So I'm home from college, fast forward 7 years or something, and she says, you know, there's some things I need to tell you. I actually was married before. Whoa, what? Yeah, I was actually married. What? Yeah. And I had a daughter. What? Yeah, her name's Kay. It was so strange to me. It's like my mom existed before I did. She had a life before mine. I mean, I knew she was Steinbeck's secretary and John Ricketts. I mean, was it John Ricketts? Ricketts, whatever his name. Ed Ricketts. A big deal. And I got all that. But now she had this daughter, Kay. Oh my God. Wait, what happened to Kay? Where's Kay? She died. This is real hard. Talk about being attached to somebody you never even met. I have such an attachment to Kay, never even met her. She died of cancer, of a brain tumor, at age 12. Okay? Fast forward many years. My dear sweet mom is like 92 years old. Still lives in the Maryland's home and all of that, where now Jesse and his family live and blah, blah. And my dear sweet wife says, it's time. We gotta have Tone come live with us. She can't live alone up there anymore. Really? Yeah, okay. We move her in. Tons of stuff. Oh my God, boxes. Okay. Storage and blah, 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 blah. And it takes weeks. And she's still, months later, she's still going up there and finding this little thing. Johnny and Lisa, who stay there, still find little Tone stuff. She calls me. She's up at the house finding stuff. She says, Yanon, I just found this. I got to read it to you. It's a poem.
poem that Kay wrote. And here it is. And she was 12 when she wrote this. It goes like this. I am a little wave with white shoes and a dress with lace. I go and I come forever and forever more. I couldn't breathe when I heard that. I'm a little wave. Wave? I told you you wanted a towel when you entered my teenage room because there's so many waves on every corner of the wall. I can't go past water without looking for a wave. Wave that I've been drawing since I was 12 years old, over and over and over again, that I carry on my wedding ring because it's the most powerful symbol in my life, that I'm as near to nirvana is when I just have my hand in it and just cruising, even if it's only knee high. Wave? Oh my God. And when was Kate born? Oh, that's right. November 3rd. By the way, 1935. Now, why might that sound familiar? Because the first time we met, I told you, my best friend was born on November 3rd. It means nothing to you now. It might mean something months from now when I tell you a story. And when I looked at that, November 3rd, I went right over to McGoldrick. I said, McGoldrick, not only are you my brother, you are my sister. Give me a hug, bro. He's like, huh? My sister Kay was born on November 3rd. And I understand that's a 1 under 365th probability. That's not as amazing as a wave, but it's still pretty dang amazing. Huh? Go figure. Thank you for listening. Go to the world and embrace the magic and whatever it all, the numinosity. And I'll see you next week.